Welcome back everybody. So in this unit of this course we're going to look at a thing that's called intonation. And intonation is all about how you pronounce the words that you are expressing. Intonation is also known as stress, word stress or sentence stress. And it's really a pronunciation skill that everybody needs to practice, because pronunciation or intonation allows you to express ideas more clearly. Okay, now there are basically two types of intonation. There is what we call rising intonation and falling intonation. Don't worry, we're going to go into the details of what we mean by this precisely, but I'm just going to try and introduce you to the idea of intonation right now. So rising intonation would be when you choose to increase your intonation when you say a particular word. So you may have heard when I said the word word, okay, my intonation rose. I added extra stress to that word and I used rising intonation. The falling intonation would be when, instead of expressing the word higher, you really express it lower. Okay, so we have rising and falling intonation. So rising and falling intonation are the two very, very basic principles of intonation. Okay, in the English language though, we use rising and falling in lots of different combinations. So you might get a rise followed by a fall followed by a rise. You might get a rise followed by two falls followed by another rise. So we use rising and falling in combinations to add extra emphasis to the different words within our sentence. Okay, now why is this important? Well, I've got a diagram here for you, okay, just to try and express why intonation or stress is important when you are speaking. So we have, I suppose you should all know what the word monotone means. Monotone is a word that describes something that is at the same pitch. There is no change in the level of what you are listening to. Now, let me try and give you an example of monotone speech. It's very difficult to do, but I will give you an example. Hello, my name is Paul. I am an English teacher. Hello, my name is Paul. I am an English teacher. Okay, now that's very difficult for me to achieve because intonation is very natural for me when I speak. But you'll notice that when I said hello, my name is Paul, I am an English teacher, the pitch I used was flat. It was monotone. Now, if you were listening to somebody speaking in that monotone way for a long time, you would probably fall asleep because it's really, really boring. Yeah? Whereas somebody who is speaking in an interesting way, okay, their speech doesn't stay flat in this monotone level, it rises and falls. It rises and falls. Yeah? A bit like music. When you're listening to music, if you listen to music that was just one or two notes played, it'd be boring. But when you play those notes up and down, okay, it becomes musical. Yeah? So your speech should not look like this, it should look like this. Okay? This is interesting, this is boring. Yep. So, rising and falling intonation, if you want to, okay, you can use intonation across an entire sentence. Yeah? Or you can just choose to select some individual words, yeah, where you add stress or emphasis. Yeah? It might be easy for you guys to practice just with individual words, but you can, if you get better at this, actually use intonation across a whole sentence. Okay, I just want to finish this introduction to intonation with an example. I didn't tell you about it. I didn't tell you about it. You hear me? That was monotone. There's zero emotion in my voice. But what I can do with this sentence is I can choose where to use my intonation, rising or falling, to create more meaning out of the sentence. So for example, if I want to emphasize the importance of me in this sentence, I would pronounce the word I with rising intonation. I didn't tell you about it. I didn't tell you about it. Very, very naturally in this sentence, okay, so let me just, I'm going to use rising intonation. Very, very naturally, the opposite end of I, in this case, is you. So very, very naturally, for you, I would use falling intonation. So the sentence would be, I didn't tell you about it. Do you hear the difference? I didn't tell you about it. So I've got rising intonation here and falling intonation here, which makes the sentence more interesting and easier to understand than I didn't tell you about it. Okay. Now, so rising intonation, falling intonation. Let's mix this up a little bit, and let me get rid of these for 1 second. Let me give you another example here. Okay, so I'm going to use rising intonation, but this time I'm going to use rising intonation on the word you. So I'm not going to use any intonation here. I'm going to use intonation here because this is the most important word in the sentence. I didn't tell you about it. I didn't tell you about it. I didn't tell you about it. Yeah? So I'm using my stress here. I'm using word stress on this word here, and I'm raising it to emphasize the importance. Yeah. Another alternative. Let me just get rid of that. Is at the end of this statement, I can use rising intonation here. In fact, I'm going to use rising intonation here and here. I didn't tell you about it. I didn't tell you about it. Yeah? Rising intonation. Makes your speech much more interesting. Yeah? And as you are preparing for your IELTS exam, you want your speech to be more interesting, and you want your speech, whatever you say, to convey meaning. And you get more emphasis, you get more emotion into what you're saying by using stress and intonation correctly. Okay, so this is your very, very quick introduction to what intonation is and why it's important. Now let's look at how you should be using it in your IELTS speaking exam.